What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? It is your friend and well-meaning sneakerhead, the voice of reason that's always in season, champion of change whose DM signal is always in range, advocate for the future, ethical consumer, vegan.
Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of the Air Vegan YouTube channel. It is me, the Air Vegan. It's definitely been a minute, and I'm excited to be back with an episode which I think you'll all appreciate. A lot of great stuff to talk about. The Space Hippies are finally out. I've rolled out a few different projects around concepts to redesign sneaker boxes and also the hotly debated sneakers app. I do want to start off with a couple of things that are bigger than sneakers and drops and things of that nature, stuff that relates to the global community at large. And first and foremost, I want to acknowledge and give my respect and condolences to everyone who has felt the effects of COVID. I also want to say thanks to the essential workers who have kept us all afloat and put their lives on the line for us. I also wouldn't feel comfortable making an episode without addressing some of the issues around how our country is long overdue, that we need some change, and that I think that we need to be honest about who we are and where we need to go as a society. So before I get into the episode, I want to take a moment to draw attention to the deaths of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and too many others to list here. I think that it's really important that you know that I stand in support of Black Lives Matter, and to me that encompasses Black women's lives and Black trans lives. So I'm going to take a moment to just pause before we carry on. Now we can get into the episode. This episode, like I said, I'm going to talk about the Space Hippie release. It's finally here. It happened. Great results, great response. I also want to talk about this project I started doing called the Air Vegan Classics. We'll also dig a little bit into the sneaker box project that I did with Roy Cranston, and we'll focus primarily on the sneakers app, the evolution of the sneakers app, a project that I also did with Roy Cranston. So if you're not familiar with any of these, you can find out and see more about them on my Instagram, on the grid. If you like what I'm doing, share the account with your friends, tag other sneaker sites, help me amplify the message in hopes that we can draw more attention to the notion of sustainability, environmental responsibility in sneakers. I think that's where we need to go. So, the backstory on this sneakers project. I worked with Roy Cranston, like I said. If you're not following him, he's an amazing designer, a great friend, fellow vegan, at Roy Cranston, RoyCranston on Instagram. He brings a lot to these projects as far as the realm of design is concerned, and he also helps me workshop some of the ideas. So shout out to Roy. If you're not following him, like I said, you should jump on that. Part of the backstory also revolves around the L. That horrible L that everyone always talks about, that I can't open up Twitter on a Saturday morning without seeing people complain about. I wanted to try and figure out a way to solve the L. I also felt like this project was rooted in drawing more attention to the value we should have for loyalists and their commitment to a sneaker before the hype takes shape. So, for example, you saw people largely ignore the 270 React, but when it became a Travis Scott collaboration, it drew some attention, although it was dissed pretty hard at first. Nobody was hyped on the design, and after the hype started to build and months transpired, then you saw that sneaker, people saw that there was resale value, and if there was someone who was a huge Travis Scott fan and they wanted that sneaker as soon as they saw the first images, they had no shot in getting it by the time it came out. And so I think about that as it relates to running sneakers, to basketball sneakers, to the space hippie. Like, loyalists should have a crack at a sneaker before the hype sort of takes hold. So yeah, those are a couple of things that were part of the backstory of it. I think that we felt like we should start the project with this image here, which was the Not It. Obviously, it's a play on the Got 'em. We wanted to just say that the Sneakers app, it's plateaued, and I think that it needs to evolve. And where it stands right now, in its present state, it is not it. It is not the solution, and we wanted to find ways to breathe new life into it. So before we get into it for real, there were a couple of things that were brought to my attention once the project launched, and I think that I'm about dialogue, so I want to call out a couple things, and I think hopefully it helps further the communication around sneakers and apps and releases. It was brought to my attention that there is a legal issue around a pre-order when the company does not ship the product within 30 days. So for example, Apple with their iPhone, if you pre-order it, Apple is obligated to ship that device to you within 30 days. So, as it relates to this pre-order concept that I messed around with here and that I'm presenting, I think there would need to be some workaround to resolve how it relates to the legal issues. I have some ideas about that. If anyone really wants to give this pre-order thing a shot, I think there are solutions. Another thing that was brought up was that people were like, "Yo, the Sneakers app is designed to lose. We're supposed to enjoy losing because it makes the W's that much sweeter." If that's your thing, all good. I'm not in this game, or I don't get joy out of trying to consume more than I need. I do want to be able to purchase the things that I believe in. So this may be cool to you to lose more often than not, but that's totally your prerogative. I just wanted to acknowledge that's part of the conversation around it. And then the last thing before we get into it is that people make money from reselling. I appreciate the value and the entrepreneurial skills that one can learn from reselling, and I think that that's cool. And I also support situations in which it's supplemental income to some people. I think that that's something that I acknowledge and appreciate and respect. I have a different view of those who use bots to get 150, 300 pairs of a sneaker and then resell it for 5 times retail. So those were some of the things that came up as we started to roll the project out, and I felt like I wanted to talk about them before we got into it. So without further ado, here we go. The 4 pillars of the Sneakers app concept were: 1, improved customer satisfaction; 2, a better way to manage inventory and be more responsible; 3, a way for brands to harness better customer data, which I'll talk more about; and 4 was enthusiasm and authenticity, having more value than hype. So let's jump right into it. Number 1, the improved customer satisfaction angle. I think this is the most important one, potentially. I feel like the brands want the customer to feel appreciated, and if you're a loyalist and you love a sneaker and you're into it from the first time you see it, I think that there should be a way to get that sneaker. I think that we as, sneaker lovers want to feel that connection and want to ensure that we can get product. I think it also helps to improve customer satisfaction by not nudging the customer to have to go to an outside party, a Grailed, a Goat, a StockX, etc., to find the sneakers. I think it would do a better job, a pre-order, of sort of merging the interest of the consumer with the brand and making a more harmonious transaction. Number two was a way to manage inventory more responsibly. So this was big to me because I think that with a pre-order model, a brand can have a better sense of the metrics of how many sneakers they actually need to produce. So with a pre-order model, if the consumer can sign up or commit to buy a sneaker 3 or 4 months in advance, then the brand can assess what quantities to make. And to me, this is important in minimizing the amount of excess stock that gets made, the amount of stuff that sits on shelves, the excess carbon impact and environmental impact and footprint that takes place when we extract resources to make this excess of sneakers and then they sit on shelves. And even if those excess sneakers are recycled or repurposed into other sneakers or grind or anything like that, we've wasted resources on that first round. And so I think as we think about the life cycle of the product, minimizing waste and managing inventory more responsibly is a big thing for me, and I think that refining the app can actually help with that. The better customer data thing. We are in a state in business where data is probably the most valuable asset, and so I think that the brand loses characteristics of me as a consumer if they don't understand that I'm buying basketball sneakers, running sneakers, vegan-friendly products, etc. If I can't get those things when they release and I have to go elsewhere, then the brand doesn't really understand my behavior. So this may be a boring point, but I think that when you propose ideas, there needs to be a win-win element, and I think that this is an element in which the brands would win a lot by doing a better job of getting customer data. The fourth pillar is based around enthusiasm and reward. I think that it would be cool to see a shift towards rewarding consumers who have a vision for what it is that they want and aren't responding to hype. I think that shifting that power would be really monumental and important and sort of inspire originality and original thought. I think that the idea of me as a consumer knowing as soon as I see a product that's sustainable or innovative like a Space Hippie, I want to know that I can get that product before it comes out. So not even before it comes out, but I'm down to commit early in advance, and I feel like we should have that option as customers. So how would the pre-order process work? That's a great question, and here was the original concept that I pitched on my account. So I think it works in stages. I think you could create 2 stages. The first in which there's a 3-day sign-up window. You commit 20% to purchase the product, and you're guaranteed a pair when they actually ship to retailers. So there's a reward in committing to buy the sneaker early. I also think that what's cool about the pre-order model is that it potentially allows the brand time to authenticate purchases. So, I would like to see quantities on the amount of pre-orders so that I can't get 50 pairs. And if I use a bot, I think the brand should be allowed to dismiss those purchases. The second stage of the pre-order would be closer to the release date and offer the customer a 1-day, 24-hour sign-up period. That would require a greater commitment because you essentially slept on it. I proposed 50%. I think that in that tier, the pair ships out on release day. You don't get them early, and there's a potential to lose out. Like that pre-order could be capped. So what does it look like? This is an example that Roy and I mocked up. Essentially you would get an alert that a sneaker has gone up for pre-order, and you could choose to pre-order it early or set a reminder and make it so that in stage 2 it'll remind you, and you can decide then closer to the date. Honestly, props to Roy. I think this panel is beautiful, and I think it's pretty spot on and in line with traditional Nike app design. And then of course this is really what it would look like if you confirmed that pre-order purchase. So I think it's a cool way to flip it around. I want people to poke holes in it, and I want to have a greater dialogue about it, and maybe it will inspire Nike to reapproach how they're doing the sneakers app. So yeah, hit the comments and let me know what you're thinking. The next stuff I want to talk about, the Space Hippie release. It happened, it's here. I'm wearing the 01s. And so I just want to touch on my favorite part of each one of the sneakers. I'll make it fast, but the 01s, I think they're great. I love them for so many of the elements. I've spoken extensively about the upper and what the upper consists of and how it's made from recycled plastic bottles and t-shirt scraps. I also just want to say that to me it looks like a Mars Yard meets a Roshi. And I think that those are two pretty classic designs. To me, I feel like they nailed these. I haven't stopped wearing them since they came. The 2. This one was a pretty big surprise for me. I felt like one of the things that I wanted to show you guys is just that the way they knitted the space yarn here is pretty phenomenal. There's different techniques that are used to reinforce certain areas and to make this thickness up top super sock-like, to be able to make a sneaker without laces that's super comfortable, innovative, and has all of the right reinforcement in specific areas where you apply more pressure or use more pressure as you wear them. I think they just did a great job by being hyper intelligent about the different knit patterns, and it makes for an insanely comfortable sneaker. The next up, the 3, which obviously for a lot of people was the most exciting of the batch. The thing that I think is the most interesting here is how crazy the fast fit lacing system is. They took these from scraps from old Jordans, and what's crazy is that you actually pull up here to get yourself tight and laced in, and that tightens all the cables here, and to let yourself out you pull down, and when your foot is in here it actually gets you in and out of the sneaker. Phenomenal design, super interesting, and yet again proving that you can make a sneaker that has all of these sustainable design principles, but can also have interesting tech. And then of course the 4, which was the easiest to get of the group and is a super cool sneaker. What I thought was interesting about it is that the laces go all the way down super low on the toe box. But what I tried to do was eliminate 3 of the lace holes to bring the toe box up and make it more traditional as far as the proportions are concerned. I think it just makes the sneaker a little bit more balanced, but it's also super comfortable, and I was really impressed with it when I finally got it on my foot. There's another colorway coming. There's also like a pinkish orange colorway coming, so look out for that. One of the other things that I thought was hyper cool and I wanted to spend a couple of seconds on is how the shoe actually comes. The one box is something that Nike implemented for this, and it made for, this is literally how the sneaker got shipped to me. It was obviously a blank box, and I think a lot of people were bummed on it. But what I thought was cool was that a friend whose account is at McDowell's brand suggested, hey, maybe flip the box inside out, which I did. And I think that something that's a cool takeaway for Nike to consider is maybe if they want to continue with the one box, they can pre-visualize what the boxes would look like if they're flipped inside out. And that way we don't feel like we're being sort of gypped on the box design. I know that it's a big thing for a lot of people, and I want them to understand that the trade-off of minimizing the carbon footprint by only shipping one box is brilliant and needs to be the direction we go. But I also think that we could spare the consumer and give them what they want, which is more design on the box. So super cool run of the first Space Hippie release. The extension of that was that they also put the Space Hippie yarn into the new Chuck Taylors. And it's been crazy to see how all of these have sold out pretty instantaneously. Big props to the whole entire team who worked on this. Yeah, it's just been exciting. You never know how these things are going to be received, and I've been speculating for a while that I thought this was going to be a successful drop across the board, and it's just great to see the recycled yarn being put into things like the Space Hippie, the VaporMax 2020. There's a pair of Air Max 90s and also the Jordan 1s, so lots more to come. Getting towards the end of the episode here, and just a couple other things I want to quickly hit on. It's been an interesting couple of months, and some of the things that I was really excited to work on. One was this project called Classics, which I'll quickly talk about. Everyone always asks about Jordans, Air Force Ones, Air Max Ones. So what I'm doing is making these posts in which I talk about these classic silhouettes and tell you which vegan iterations exist for each of those. These have been super successful. You can find them on my grid. They're really fun to do. They just take a lot of research, so there's more coming. Stick around for them. Here's what the Air Max 1 looked like, and here's a pair of Air Force Ones. These are the Pro Cells, one of my favorite iterations. Another thing that we worked on and rolled out, I did this with Roy. This is the box concept that I talked about. For a while, I've been saying that transparency in materials needs to be at the forefront of these sneaker releases. You should go read more about this. We were really proud to see this project make its way onto Hypebeast Kicks and Calling All Creators and a bunch of other sites. It was really well received, and we explore a bunch of different ways to get the materials onto boxes. So last couple things, the Move to Zero initiative from Nike has now made its way onto Nike.com. You can go into the filters tab and search for products that are sustainable. And so here's what that looks like. The insignia is the way, the icon that makes it easy to find them. Here's another look at what that looks like. So if you're looking for products that are made in a more responsible manner or have recycled materials, now there's a filter on Nike.com to check that out. The last thing I want to get to is the Alpha Zoom Fly Next Percent. These are the running sneakers that Eliud Kipchoge made famous when he broke the 2-hour marathon barrier. He did that on October 12th, 2019. Here we are in August of 2020, and these really haven't seen a general, bigger, broader release yet. They're coming again on August 13th, hoping to get my hands on a pair. As an avid runner, I love the tech and the innovation that have come out in the Nike running stuff in recent years, so keep your eyes peeled for these. Last thing, thank you to everybody. We just hit 8,000 followers. The last episode I did, I was at 5. I really appreciate all the support and the conversations that we're having. Always feel free to hit me up in the direct messages. Thanks for liking the page. Tell your friends about it. follow the YouTube channel, subscribe, comment, get active. Let's get our voices heard. You can follow me on Instagram at the Air Vegan, and as always, the future is vegan.